everybody, it's Thursday, so it's Geli Printing demo day. I'm Ming Harrod. I own Craftiness, which is a paper craft store in the Los Angeles area. And if you're new to me or to this space, you can find me at craftinessonline.com. And you can find me at Facebook at Craftiness Online, Instagram Craftiness Online, YouTube Craftiness Online. So if you're interested in what I'm doing here, you can check those resources out and find lots of info. If you want to purchase any of the stuff that I use, most of it's available at craftinessonlineshop.com, or you can come on in to the store. We're here at in Chatsworth on Devonshire, and you can message me for more details, but we're open Tuesday through Saturday, 12 to 5, and until 7 on Fridays. Thinking about expanding our hours, but anyway, since it is Thursday, Thursday is the day that I do a little Geli printing, and I'm just going to go ahead and get started with that. I'm going to turn this over. Got a little shadow because of the... Sorry, everybody. There we go. I don't know why there's a dark line on the screen. I'm hoping that doesn't show up on the actual video. Let me see, where am I on this? Okay, so turn that off. Today I pulled a couple of new stencils. You all know how much I love stencils. And I'm going to work with, initially I'm going to work with my big Geli plate. I have a pile of small ones that I might work with as well. I've been really enjoying that, but this is what I want to start with. And I pulled a couple of new stencils to work with, and today I'm going to be working with a different brayer. This is a actual printer's brayer, so it's rubbery and not as hard as the others, and I want to see if that makes a difference with the coverage. Let me just get the mic thing out of the way. So I'm just going to start now. These numbers are wiggly-piggly all over the place, but they are a certain direction, so I want to keep that in mind. Same with the words. This is an actual quote. Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments, something like that. But if I want, with both of these, hi Lois. Great, that's good to hear. I want to make sure that when I put them down on the Geli plate that they are backwards. And the reason for that is, if you think about it, when you do the pull and you pull it up, it will be then reversed on the page. And so that's just something to keep in mind. I am going to be playing around with some stamps today as well. These are my art foamy stamps. They're foam, and so they take working with paint really well. But it's worth noting that unless they're unidirectional, that when I stamp with them, it's going to stamp backwards. So just know that about some of these techniques, that there is a direction. All right, so with this one, I'm just going to start out today. I'm going to use some craft paints. I've got my paper artsy rack out right now, and I'm just actually going to do a little very intentional laying down of color, where I'm not going to use the same color in the whole thing. Hi, Michelle. And I didn't clean my brayer, so I'm going to get some contamination from the colors that I'm using. That's okay with me. I might change my mind at some point and clean the brayer off a little bit. But for now, I like that it's going to create maybe a little ombre feeling to it because of that. And these are my paper artsy paints. If you know these at all, you know that they're chalky when they dry, which is very desirable for mixed media artists, because that means that they're easy to layer up on later to add more info, more art, more mixed media. And so that's one of the reasons that these are my favorite. They're also pretty pigmented, unless they say they're translucent, in which case they're not. But they have nice thick lay down. They're a family-owned company out of England, now out of France. They moved during the pandemic. So I just started out today by using a bunch of different colors. And I do love that moment when you roll out the brayer and you get a little bit of the printing that you did. See, this is how my brain works. Sometimes I like this better than I like the printing, but I am going to give this a second to dry because today I'm going to pull using some white. So I'm going to let this dry a little bit and then I'm going to pull it and we'll see what kind of a print we get. I'm going to use my placement tool, which it's missing a piece. That's okay because for me I actually work this direction, but because I'm working with a big plate, this is my 8 by 10 plate, and it's 8.5. This is size for 8.5 and 11 size paper, so I'm going to place it so that it is in the smallest setting. And actually I'm getting a little impatient, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this first print, even though it's not, it hasn't dried, and I was waiting for it to dry so I could do the overlay of paint on top of it, but I actually like this idea. Look at that. So that might just be the background for this one. That might be it. It's kind of fun. But now I've got all of this other paint and it's going to dry fairly quickly. So this is where I'm going to use my white and maybe pick up a ghost print. A ghost print is the leftovers from a print that you've already pulled, and you pick it up on your next round, either by putting down more paint or by it being wet enough that you can just pull it up. Now I'm being a little gentle because if I wasn't, chances are the brayer itself would have pulled that ghost print off, and I don't want that. So let's see what I get from this one. You hear that? That sound is actually, it means I'm getting a fairly cleansing pull, and I can already tell that I love it. I tend to love these grungier prints, you know, where I have multiple ghost prints contaminating the layers. I love these so much more than the original print sometimes. I'm going to have to press this down, but you can see here's the original, here's the ghost, and I just, yeah, I'm super into it. You know, I had some contamination, it looks like from maybe even previous prints then, and so I've got a nice, and I've got some grungy stuff from paint that was still left on my Geli pad. So there's the first print, here's the ghost print. This one pulled up all that extra grunge because I put paint on top of it, and it creates a little bit of a decal, if you imagine. Like, so imagine you painted onto a window, you know how you can pull the paint off as one solid sticker. That's kind of what happens here. So that's a good start. All right, so now I'm going to play around with, actually I'm going to play around with the same one, but I'm going to be a little less static about it. So this time I'm going to come in and I'm going to add paint. I'm going to move the stencil around so that it's not so flat. And I'm going to clean my brayer off in between prints so that I don't end up with the contamination issues. So on this one, I'm going to turn it over. So far all I've used is paper artsy paints. I haven't used anything else, but I do have some others here in front of me. I've got my Americana and some of my Martha Stewart paints in front of me, which you cannot get anywhere else anymore because that company has gone out of business. At least not from the old company. Maybe someone else has picked them up. But. So at this point what I'm looking for is I'm looking for colors that have some contrast to each other, because I want these to crisscross and interact, and I want there to be some you know, contrast where they speak to each other in different ways. Let's see. I'm going to pull my deco art at this point. Let's see what this color does. This is one of the neons. I often find that the neons end up feeling a little, what's the word? Pale compared to what I expect. But let's see how this looks. Yeah, so it goes, basically it goes a little transparent when you put it down, but we'll see what happens when it pulls up. All right, and what I'm hoping is that the paint underneath is drying as I do this, so that as I put more paint down, it doesn't squash. And get different parts of the stencil. So it's drying a little bit, so now there's some danger that I will pick up the paint with the stencil instead of paper, because it's just that midpoint between being completely dry and needing to have more paint put on top of it, and being wet and pick upable. All right, so that's that part. I'm going to add some numbers. Now remember, I want this to be backwards, so I'm going to add a little bit. I'm going to do the red again. Oops, that's a lot of red. So what I'm going to do there, because I put too much down, is I'm just going to leave it on there and see about pulling it in. Yeah, we'll see. I'll save that and see if I'll pull it on another print. Okay, so got a lot going on here. I'm going to literally just let this dry, and so because I want that to dry, I'm going to move it out of the way since I have y'all here, and I'm just going to spend a minute or two playing with these. These are the little mini ones. I just got some new ones in, so I'm going to use up some of this paint that was on here, and this you can use two ways. You can put it down the way I did, or you can just use it as a stamp. This had some old paint on it I was hoping to get up with this as a ghost print. Meh, not really. Didn't really work that way. Let's play around with adding some more. I do like taking stuff away, so let's see what happens if I use one of these and pull up. Now the intention behind this is that I would take these later and maybe cut these out and use them that way. So at this point I'm just, while that big plate dries, tricky, that I'm just playing around with the leftover paint that I had on my brayer from the last bit that I tried to put down that was a little too much. So at this point I'm just braying on some color first onto my paper and then picking it up with the brayer so it's not so wet. Let's see what I get out of that. Ooh, that's kind of cool. And then what's fun about what happened with the brayer is watch. And I do think the fact that I'm using a rubber, a squishy rubber brayer is working for me today. So that's helping a lot. Still drying over there. So let's try. I actually really enjoy working with this shape. This is one of my favorites because of its hexagonness. So let's see. Please don't do that. My computer is on its last legs. I've ordered another one. I have to wait. And I'm just really, really hoping that this computer lasts that long. It keeps flickering. No good. Flickering is no good. So I'm just going to take this. This has a lot of paint on it, and I'm just going to see if maybe, if I put it down like this, if I can't pull some of that off. Yay! Look at that. That's fun. There we go. So again, we're just waiting for my big sheet to dry so that I can pull a nice print from it. Maybe using a background color. Let's see, I have these art foamy stamps are great for working with this sort of thing. Really fun. I can do two things with them. So that was I used it to remove paint, but if I were to use it with my brayer, so I've got paint on my page, I'm going to pull it onto my brayer, I'm going to brayer it onto my stamp, my art foamy stamp, and then I'm going to print it onto my plate, and then I'm going to come in with another color. Again, trying not to overwhelm my plate, so pulling the color onto my brayer first and then pulling it over. Ta-da! It's a couple of techniques. All right, so let's see where we're at with this whole thing. There's still some wet paint on here, but you know me, I can't wait. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to mess with it a little bit. I'm going to pull some of that off, like this. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead now and use a color in the background to try and pick this up. And I'm going to be dramatic here. So I'm going to go ahead and pull a print using this midnight behind it, and we'll see what we get from that, the play of that dark paint. I don't know if you can see that I'm going to load my brayer. I'm going to brayer it on. You can see it's picked that wet paint up. Need more. It does not want to give it up. All right, so let's see what happens if I pull this. You caught me playing today. I am just not a patient person, so some of this is just about patience. So there you go. That sort of worked. I lost a little bit of I lost some of the green. That red is certainly standing out. That dark paint was interesting. I think I would have liked a bit more coverage, but you know me, I like the grunginess of this. It's satisfying. And I've got now, in terms of thinking about what I might do with this, is I would come in maybe with a paint pen, a white paint pen or even a pink paint pen, and I would do some more work here. But I could also right now just go ahead and add some elements using using some contrasting paint. Hopefully you just saw what happened there. I rolled the sprayer back and forth, and it didn't move the paint around. It just, because when you move it back and forth like this, it's just the same surface going over and over. You have to pick it up and move it around. There we go. That's got what I want. So a little contrast in there, popping. I'm going to come in and do a little bit of this color, see what happens if I add. So this is just me doing a little, come on, spot printing, right? Did it again. Back and forth doesn't work in Harriet. You've proven that over and over and over again. Yeah, yep, love it. That's what I like. Okay, I'm gonna get interesting. Oh, I don't know if that's gonna work. Let's see, I've got part of this that I haven't really managed to get any color from, so Really, because I'm using white, really going to try and get my brayer clean so I can get a nice impression of those letters in white. Ooh, yeah. So this is me using the Geli print a little differently. Rather than going for one print, I'm working on building on top of a print I already have. Love it, love it. Here is my palette, my first piece of paper that I was using as a palette. Look at that, that's hot. And so you can see all of the printing I'm pulling from just one rollout. And then you want to see something fun too? Wow, look at that. Look at those ghost letters. So from that one pull, I got multiple impressions. But look at that now. I like that a lot. So, you know, as someone who loves layers and loves building on top, actually it was like this, right? Yeah. And that's only if you care, if you can read the words, you can sort of see it. But this for me, yeah, this is it. So it can take, see, I've been doing this for 22 minutes and I finally got something that I'm like excited about. And that's how long it can take. It can take longer. You've seen me sit here before and ended up frustrated with not getting anything particularly great. But, you know, this time I wasn't putting too much thought into it. I was playing around and I went with my instincts and look what I ended up with. I super love it. In fact, to the point where I would call this done. I don't plan to come in and do anything else on top of this. This feels finished and I would gladly put this up on my wall or in a journal or even photocopy it and create prints to use as you know, paper covers for my books, that sort of thing. So yeah, anyway, that's it. I'm gonna stop there. Oh, but you know what? I'm not gonna stop there because I just looked down and saw all the juicy goodness still on my plate. I'm going to pick this ghost print up. Let's see what happens if I just get some paint on here, move my brayer around so I get a nice consistent layer. Let's see what happens if I can get any of that goodness off. Might not. Thanks, Michelle. Pretty happy with that. Haha. So, not a lot going on, but so much going on. I don't know. There's some gold in there. Where did that come from? Dude, love this. I love these prints sometimes where you just pull it up and you get what you get. So that is obviously not finished, but there's some imagery in there and I could see layering up on that. All right, so now there's still something in there though. I gotta do it. Gotta see what I can get. So much for saying I was finished, right? This is what happens. Get obsessed and obsessive. Geli printing can do that to you. You think, I'll just do one more. I'll just get a little bit left, a little bit off this last print. And then an hour later, you're sitting there and you've got 400 prints next to you. Okay, come on. Oop, I hear that sound. Sweet. Okay, got a little bit going on there. A little bit of grungy stuff in there. A little bit of that writing on the wall. So this again might be a point where I want to come in. I totally said I was finished. Nope. Nope, guess not. I did not register this, so I'm just plunking. I'm not worried about using my placement tool right now. There we go. That paint was a little runny. Cool. Cool beans. I'm gonna set this one aside so I don't mess it up. Let's see what else I can add. Let me think, what color would I want on top? I don't know if you can hear the wind here in Southern California or in the LA area. We've got some Santa Anas. These Santa Anas, the ones that people write songs and poems and murder mysteries about, because they do make people murderous. They make my headaches bad. Not a fan. Makes me miss the Northwest where I grew up quite desperately. So that's one of those is upside down, but here's an idea. Just picking up bits at this point. Coming back to this one, which is a sheet just sitting there, waiting for me to do that on. All right. Let's see. I'm just going to do one more. Just one more, and then I promise I'll let you go about your day. Do-do. That didn't end up as contrasty as I was hoping. So, you know, here you can see that sometimes it works really well and sometimes it's okay. I would let this dry and, right, Lois? I can hear the signs outside creaking. So this one has a nice balance of colors and contrasts. It's busy, but it still works because of those contrasts. This one's muddying a little bit, right? Because that color didn't pop as much as I was hoping. So that is just a little lesson in how color works together and how layers, you know, contrast is your friend when you're working with layers. So I'm just going to do one more on this and see if I can't create that moment that I'm looking for. Oops, sorry. Make you jiggle. All right, let's see if I can get what I want out of this. Yeah, that's a little better. So see, that contrast really can make a huge difference as to how it reads and whether or not it feels balanced and interesting. So yeah, anyway, hopefully that proved my point for you, maybe not. So there are my two pieces that I'm proud of today. Lots of background pieces as well out of this, and just some fun. Just remember that when you're working with anything with a quote or an alphabet, that it has to be backwards when you put it down on your plate, or it's going to not show up the right direction on your print. All right. Anyway, I will stop. I will stop now. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that inspired you to get your jelly prints out and play with them, or your jelly plates. And you can use any kind of paint. Those are craft paints. I've got my $2 paints next to my $6 paints. So, you know, it doesn't take much, and it doesn't take fancy stuff. So hopefully you're inspired. All right, thanks for joining me today. Bye, everybody.